Excellent. So good. We are ready to start with our webinar discussing the cross-border investment facilitation on a digital level. We'll discuss with Invesdor, the European level cross-border digital platform tool, now on focus on financial transactions and investor startup management. So we're glad to have Ville and Erik on board. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Excellent. So, and a happy audience of angels and actives from this field. So I hope you can see my screen here. So just quickly introducing the topic and agenda, what we have here. So as mentioned, we have Invesdor, part of Nordic Business Angel Network, our coalition of 11 angel networks in the Nordic Baltic area. And this goes very much of experience from the Nordic Angel Program, which is a cross-border facilitation training and investment program for business angels. And the program experience is from Finland, where last spring 2018, we had Invesdor being used as the tool to transact the financials over the cross-border angels from all around Europe. So we're going to deep dive into those experiences. So as mentioned, we have Ville and Erik. They will shortly introduce themselves in more detail. The topics will be, as mentioned, so go into detail to the investor and available services, then discuss the investment platform service for angels. So as discussed, the main goal is to discuss the possibilities when, especially on angel investing, taking those email attachments to a digital era of actually doing the transaction and management of information and financials on these platforms. So coming into that future. And maybe highlighting some of the services which Invesdor already offers for the angels, at least in the Nordic Baltic area. Divided that in the investment life cycle of screening, investing, growth, and exit. So you can see the detailed services, and maybe investor team can highlight some of those services at some point, but more information can be found from nordicban.net/investor, where we highlight these investor services. But good. So maybe I think it's time for Invesdor. The stage is yours. I will cut my screen share, so it's all your screen. Enjoy.
Just briefly, my name is Erik Rehn. I run the deal flow team globally for Invesdor, as well as our client management team for the projects. My background is in finance. I studied finance, and then I went into consulting, moved to London and did a bunch of M&A deals there. So I know what it's like to do stuff the old-fashioned way, at least from a London perspective. I've also been selling financing in London, as well as then about 2.5 years, I was working for IBM Watson, which brings me to technology. And I was also the head of IBM Watson for the Nordics before joining Invesdor. But my background is fixed in finance, and I've done a lot of deals, especially for private equity clients in the UK. So not that much public transactions, but mostly private transactions, what I've been working with. So that's my background. And now 18 months at Invesdor, running the deal flow team globally. Globally for Invesdor means currently the Nordic countries as well as the UK. So that's where we currently accept companies from, but the investors can come from anywhere in the world. We've taken in investments from actually 81 different countries. But that's enough about myself. I'm going to jump into a little bit what Invesdor does, especially from the perspective of angel investing and what we can do there. And then I will show you in live demo how the platform works, so that you can see how it works. So I'm going to try to share my screen here, and hopefully, let me see if I can exit the full screen here. And Klaus Mikko, can you tell me if you can see my screen?
Now we can. Thank you very much.
So let me go here. Put this full screen. There we go.
Looks good.
All right, excellent. There we go. So just as I mentioned already, we are a Nordic player. We're based in Helsinki, but we do have an office in Stockholm as well. We are licensed by the Finnish FSA, meaning that we have a full MiFID license within the European Union. We passported that to each and every one of the 28 EEA countries. So that's where we can operate, basically. This means that if we screw up, then we will get fined heavily by the Finnish authorities. So we are extremely careful about everything we do. We take target companies from the Nordics and the UK, as I mentioned, and the investors come from anywhere in the world. We mainly issue equities, but due to our license, we can actually issue any type of security that's currently available. We've done a few rounds with bonds. We can do convertibles. And then, of course, due to our license, we can also transact on the public market. So we've done 6 IPOs to date. Good. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here. Basically, what we're doing is we're trying to digitalize the old finance world. So if you look at what traditionally is being done, it's a lot of PDFs, as you already mentioned, Klaus Mikko. There's a lot of sending emails back and forth. Transactions are done in a manual fashion, which just takes a lot of effort. So what we're trying to do is just streamline the process as much as possible. And that's actually our core knowledge, is how do you streamline a fairly basic process such as an equity or bond issuance, basically. So if you look at it from a process perspective, the timelines are unclear. It takes a long time. There is no project management in the traditional fashion, unless you take it in an investment bank. So compared to us, we are very compact. We're very structured. We've done about 220 equity rounds, so we know what we're doing. In terms of engagement as well, because it's digital, there can be 1 or 2 owners, or there can be 100 owners. The process is still the same. There is no manual work to be done in a digital fashion, so we can actually engage a larger pool of owners in these rounds. And of course, there are business synergies if you open the round public, which is not a must by any means on our platform. We do a lot of private rounds on our platform. But if you want to, you can have an option to open it public, which means that you can also grow brand awareness for the company you're raising funding for. And then, of course, from an investor perspective, and this is what Klaus Mikko, of course, you're driving very heavily and doing a fantastic job about, is instead of having only local players or existing networks, we're trying to facilitate cross-border transactions, and that's what we're all about. So instead of having only the existing local networks, we can do full global, and we can accept investments from anywhere in the world. Currently, we also work in 5 different currencies: euros, Danish crowns, Norwegian crowns, Swedish crowns, and British pound sterling. So if we think about now from a Nordic Bank and an angel perspective, we do offer this private round service. We also offer other services such as platform as a service, which we can sell to, for example, private placement companies. We have a few partners here in Finland who use our platform for their own private placements instead of doing the manual way. So this showcases that we can do this on a large scale. But for this purpose, I'm going to go through the private round service. So basically, we're using our general platform, but no one else except for the people you want to give access to has access to that pitch. So it's a closed investment environment for the selected investors you want to share that environment with. So what it enables is, of course, screening the investments. You can read through the pitch materials, which I will show you soon how it looks like. You can communicate with the company or the lead investor through our channels. We have a discussion board there. You can actually make the transaction. So we have a payment system where you can pay either by your bank, straight mobile banking or online banking, by invoice or by credit card. On top of that, you can sign all the necessary documents online. You don't have to actually print out, scan, PDF, send anything. You can just click through the documents and digitally sign all those. So that's the way we work. On top of that, because we are a licensed MiFID company, we operate an escrow account at Danske Bank, which means that all the money that is transferred is actually held by Danske Bank, and then after that, it's sent to the company after the round is done. So you can be rest assured that you can collect the pool of money through us, and then in a lump sum move that money over to the company. We also do KYCs, so know your customer processes for all the investors, so that you know that the money that is being invested is clean and good. We check also AMLs in the background. Did you want to mention something?
Yeah, just AMLs.
Yeah, exactly. So the platform has automatic AML, anti-money laundering processes. Good. And this is, of course, as I went through the currencies, the digitalization, etc., means that we can fully support a cross-border syndicate in the Nordic countries. So, of course, the benefit is efficiency. You don't have to go back and forth by email constantly. Everything is one place. Plus, on top of that, we have the process knowledge of how to run around very smoothly, and we will, of course, help you in every single way we can. It's a one-stop shop. You don't need to have any other systems. All the materials are there, the documentation's there, the discussion forums are there, all the signatures, payment systems, money transfers, everything is there. On top of that, again, this is partly due to our license. We do a light due diligence on these private runs. It's not as complex as our DD we would do for a public funding round, but for the private runs, we do a light DD so that you can rest assured that we have checked at least from a legal perspective, the minimum requirements of the company. Good. Let me just see if I can minimize that one. There we go. So how it works, let's say you are a lead investor. You can start by creating a profile at our homepage. You can sign up as a private person or as an organization, and then you can start creating a pitch afterwards. So if you sign up as an investment firm, you can start doing a pitch, basically, if that's the company's pitch you're doing. If you sign up as a private person, you can then start to invest. Once that is done, and the pitch is done, the angel can then send that link over to all the other angels in their syndicates so that they can go and see the material afterwards. So this is what one of our private runs look like. Asker Healthcare is this company. It's nothing private about this. We have their consent to use this as a reference. They have actually collected money through us in a public run as well. But then after that, they've done a few private runs for follow-up investors with angels and larger investors. You can see the full pitch after you signed up and received the link. And then you can see all the round-specific information and make the investment through the link. I will show you what this looks like just in a minute. I will go through the platform in a live demo.
And Erik, maybe just quickly one more. So the service itself, it's very useful, like taking it away from the emails. So instead of having the attachments, you have the one link in that sense.
Yes,
so in a theory, as we discussed a lot about the lead investor role, so that responsible person of having 3 or 5 or 50 co-investors in this kind of a syndicate. So it's more to facilitate that. So it's more impossibility to actually do it just manually. So this allows you to manage the amount of people and you have the light DD possibility. And in that sense, just having all the signings made through digital services. So having gone through, for example, an old-fashioned way of gathering 40 signatures with through letters and passport copies, that's quite a pain. So in that sense, the only way to get to a more dynamic cross-border investment, this is definitely one solution for that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Klaus Mikko. Then one thing that we've noticed is very valuable, and a lot of our partner companies especially love is our owners portal service. After each and every round, what we do is we collate all the new investments and we take them into a system that's called Owners Portal, which is an online tool for storing the securities, basically. So here you can see the entire cap table. As a company, you can see the entire cap table, and you can also, as a company, you can send information out to all these people. As an investor, you can see your securities. You can see all the information that has been communicated to you, and this is all post-round. So this is after the round is done. It's basically a shareholder registry. So instead of having that in an Excel, you have this online where you can actually go in and see all your holdings, see all the information that's been communicated to you, as well as the company can then communicate with you. I will also show this just in a second, how it actually works.
And how it differs from a normal security system. So the company can itself make the transaction there in the cap table. So if somebody's buying or selling the shares, she or he can send them trade agreement to the company, and the entrepreneur can, with by his own profile, make the transfer there. So
exactly.
It's very easy and efficient.
Exactly. And then what we also have is company profile pages, which is also post-round service. So this is a centralized system where you can actually send out information and keep the owners updated. There's some parts of it that can be public, and then there's some parts that can be protected via the fact that we know the owners from an owners portal perspective. So when they log in, they can see other information that other people can't see. And then there's also a discussion forum where you can have discussion about the company post round. So you can easily discuss through this channel. So basically, you have the option to make the round public afterwards if you want to do an uplist on the round. But there is, of course, no must to do that. It's an option to do so if you want to. Good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and show how the platform works. And if there's something I go through too quickly, or if there's something you don't understand, or you wanna specify something, just interrupt me.
Sure.
All right. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. I'm gonna go to Safari, and then we're gonna go. So first of all, one thing I want to show you. This is a public round. Only reason why I'm showing this is because the rest I'm going to show you is actually in our demo environment. There's no real information there, but I just want to show you what it could look like also in a public sense. So here is what the regular pitch page looks like. This can be protected. So this is in a public round, everyone can see this, but this will only be visible to the angels that you choose to show this information to. So basically here on the right-hand side, we have a very basic information box. Basically, it's not really a term sheet, but it just shows you very, very simplistically all the stuff that's going on here. Here on the right-hand side, you can see the Invest Now button. I'm not going to click this because this is actually live, so I'm not going to click this, but I'll show you what it looks like in the demo environment. But then one thing is, you have the pitch here. This is fairly long, but then on the bottom, you can also share all the documents. And this is of course only for the people who are logged in and have access. And you can share all the documents that you want with the companies. Good. Now I'm going to go to the demo environment, and here we can actually do a full transaction. As you can see, we have cool pictures of the pitches here. The dogs are developers' dogs. He likes photography and he likes dogs. So that's why we use these here. Anyway, what I'm going to show here is, first of all, I'm going to make an investment. And then after that, I will show you how Owner's Portal looks like. So here, this is actually a bond round. The only difference here is that we have to choose an interest rate, but otherwise it's the same as an equity round. Basically, here we have all the information you need to. This is Latin. I do not know how to read Latin, so I don't know what it says here. But basically, you have everything that you need from a valuation perspective, from use of funds, team, business, whatever you need. You can upload here. On top of that, you will have term sheets, the information on the issuance terms, financials, and then, as I showed you in the public pitch, you can also add documents to this, which is probably, from your perspective, is probably the most important thing, is you can upload the documents here in a very secure fashion.
Maybe a question. As we discussed, the role of a lead investor, that contact person for the rest of the group and helping out that entrepreneur. So it's not mainly highlighted the entrepreneur as the contact person in a typical this kind of syndicate round. So how do you see that? Is it the ideal model that there's an agreement made, that they're discussing the investment opportunity between the entrepreneur and the investor, and then the investor chooses with somehow like, this is now the solution we're going to use, so then just sending out the link to the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur fills in the basics, or is it more and then the investor, for example, modifies the text somehow, or what would be the ideal structure there?
So that is perfectly fine what you just said. That is absolutely doable. The lead investor can do it all by himself if he wants to, or she wants to. That's fine as well. Or the company can do it all. But the way I see the best way of working is what you just mentioned, is that they both do it in cooperation, because we can give access to several people to edit this as well if needed.
Very good.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe this is a little early, but just a question for the investor to manage investor discussion and comments. I guess it's not that relevant in this level, but can it be private so the entrepreneur cannot see that kind of a discussion? Can it limit who has access to those comments and discussions within the service?
I guess it's doable. We would have to see how we do that, but I mean, in general, yes, it should be doable. We would just have to figure out a way. I think we can do that with just using consultants and stuff like that. Yeah, we can do that. So you can see up here, there's the investor forum up here. I don't know if there's any comments here. There is some testing and stuff here, but this is basically what it looks like. So you can have a discussion here as well. And then when you start a thread, you can actually, you do not always have to start a new thread. You can continue in the old one as well. Exactly. And then you can also see the investments that I've gone through here. we can see this is a bond run, so it looks a little bit weird because this is actually a book runner where we are running the book for different yields for the bonds. But otherwise, you would just see the list of investors here in general.
Very good.
But that particular topic is of immense interest and also importance. The fact that the investors can have a conversation in a room, basically where the entrepreneur doesn't see it. I've been using an Invesdor once or twice through companies that have been crowdfunding, and that particular feature was asked about, but I was told it wasn't available. So have you actually implemented that facility, or is it something that you say we'll be able to implement?
So if you want to have a round where the entrepreneur cannot see the form, that is easily doable, because we will just edit the access for the entrepreneur so that he cannot see the link.
Okay. Right.
Good. Excellent. So I'm just going to make an investment now so you see what it looks like. So if I click invest now, this is again, just for information, it looks a lot more simple when you're doing an equity round, but for a bond round, we could, this is limited to 6%, but we could have an auction on the interest rate here. But basically, it would look like this: number of shares to purchase, and then you pick how many shares you want to purchase. Let's say I want to purchase 200 shares, and it will show me that the total investment is 2,000 euros and the total interest is 720 euros. Then I will click next. It will take me my information. This is fake information, so don't try. There's no need to copy it. I'm going to choose a Nordic country as my base, so that I can actually use the normal stuff here. So I'm going to choose Finland. There's my banking information. This is in case we need to return the money from my restaurant account here, so we can have this as well. Of course, we can also hand payments of dividends and stuff like that if needed through Owners Portal. So if we have the bank number, we can also facilitate that. Mm-hmm. There's some questions we need to ask by law. So these are here. It's very simple. By the way, I've already registered once, but when you register the first time, there will be some aptitude tests to non-listed investments, which I hopefully guess that all of you will pass.
Yeah. Qualification test.
Yes, exactly. Qualification test. Yeah. So here I'm in the payment method. As you can see, I can choose online banking, which is very popular, of course, here in the Nordics. We can use credit card or we can use invoice. Because I picked Finland, it automatically redirects me to the Finnish, which is Maksuturva. In Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, we will use the local providers of the payment services there. So I'm going to use Aktia because I have fake ID for Aktia, so I'm going to use that to pay my invoice. And then it will ask me to select an authentication method. I'm going to choose online banking. I'm now going to hope this is going to work because we're in a test environment, so I was hoping that I don't need to authenticate, but it might.
Quick question, don't you have any Norwegian banks?
Yes, we do. I picked Finland as my country. That's what I was trying to say. So if I go back here, so I chose Finland as my country. So if I choose Norway here, it will give me a different set of. There we go, Norway. So if I pick Norway and click next, what does it say? Yeah, okay. Now, what does it say? Oh, it's invalid. Sorry, I don't know what a Norwegian national ID, but basically, I'm gonna skip this here. But basically, if I, yeah, so I don't know what a Norwegian ID looks like, so I'm not gonna try to do this here. But basically, if I would have picked Norway, it would show me a different list here. So this is because I picked Finland. It will show me everything that is provided by Maksuturva, which is the Finnish payment system provider. If I choose Sweden or Norway, it will use Trustly, which is a Swedish company, in order to facilitate the payments. Does that make sense?
I think that's good.
Okay. But because I picked Finland, it will show me the Finnish banks here. So I chose Aktia, and then I go in. Now, I thought I didn't need to authenticate, but I can't authenticate in a test environment. So it would ask me to authenticate here through mobile banking. It's not going to work because I'm in a test environment. I can try. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't let me in a test environment do it. But
previous and click this one.
Oh yeah, I can do that later. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
So I create.
Yeah. There we go. So I skipped that part. But anyway, now it's going to show me all the payers, payment systems, additional information, my order, what I'm ordering, understanding some risks, what I'm doing here, and then it will send me over to Actia. I'm going to use some fake stuff here. And then again, just pay through your mobile bank. Then asks me to wait for a moment. There we go. Congratulations, you have subscribed to 200 bonds of Nokia oil. Proud bondholder of Nokia. So that's the way it works.
Can you change the year as well? Like that was like 1995 or something? That you could buy.
Yeah, well, this is a demo environment. It's just fake data.
Would be great. Okay.
It would be great to own Nokia in 1995. Yeah, and sell 2007.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's what the investment process looks like. Now, after I've done the investment process, I can go to my profile. I can see all the investments I've made, but also I can also see any other holdings that currently use Owners Portal. So we sell Owners Portal to other companies as well, not only to people who use our fundraising service. So everyone who uses Owners Portal will be shown here. And now I can see my own holdings in these companies. So I can see that I own, in these test companies, I own some shares. I can see the acquisition cost, and I can see how many votes I have in that company. I can also see all the shared documents. There's not going to be anything here because these are all fake data. But if I would click here, I could see all the shared documents that the companies have sent to me. For example, AGMs or quarter reports or whatever else I need to see. So those are stored on the cloud. As you can see here, Undinuities here uses a company profile page as well as a shareholder forum. So because I'm logged in, I can actually go in and have a discussion of the shareholder forum post round as well. From a company perspective, this is what the Owners Portal looks like if I log in. I can do transfers of securities. I can look at the securities of different holders. I can have some basic visualizations about the cap table. But most of all, very importantly, I can communicate with the owners just by one click of a button. So if I show you what the cap tables look like, I can, for example, choose Wizos Baringer. Look at the cap table here. I can see the ownership in terms of percentages, but I can also look at the actual securities numbers, which is, at least in Sweden as well as in Finland, is needed by law, is you need to have the actual numbers of the shares somewhere and who owns those actual share numbers. If we had bonds outstanding, we could see them here. If we had an option program, we could also see this here. We can do transfer of the securities fairly easily. I can select the seller or buyer, the securities that are being transacted, and also the attachments. For example, the shareholder agreements that have been signed, any taxes that need to be paid, for example, in Finland, trade agreements, etc., and the price acquisition dates, and then do the transfer of the securities. I can also have an audit log on all the transactions that have been done in this company, and I can see that there's some secondary trading that has been ongoing in this company. Oh, actually, no, these are all just creations of shares. But anyway, I can see the secondary trades that have been gone through the books, and I can also see the details of those. If there's any, for example, attachments to those, I can see the details here. But as I said, one of the most important things is the actual communication. So if I click contact here, I can actually send an email to all the different shareholders, or if I had an option program, I can only send to the option holders an email and add the attachments, which will then automatically be uploaded onto the Owners Portal service. So when you log in, you can see the files there from the cloud. You don't actually need to store them in your email system either. So that's the way. That's what Owners Portal looks like. Now, I'm going to stop for a while because there's probably questions or clarifications you want me to make.
In secondary trading, is that something that is offered to all your clients, or everybody that have booked into your platform?
So we don't facilitate secondary trading. I just want to be clear about that. We don't have a secondary trading platform. But if for example, I own a share in Wizox Bottingat and I want to sell that share to Ville, then I can actually just book the transaction here in the system and show that I've actually sold my shares to Ville. Actually, I'm not the one who's going to book it. It's the company that needs to do this, or we can do it for the company. But I will need to send some proof that the transaction has actually occurred.
Okay.
So this, what I'm currently showing you, is the admin view. This is what the company will see. So the actual investor will not see this.
Okay. Very interesting.
I
Maybe.
also have one question. Just to understand, is this is it possible to make this kind of closed syndicate with a startup on whatever country the startup is, or it's related to the Finnish companies?
If you're doing a private transaction, we can be much more lenient on which country they come from, because then you don't have the certain legislative problems that we have having to do public rounds. In general, we can easily accept all the Nordic companies, all the Nordic countries, as well as the UK. But then Estonia, for example, for a private round, and this is not a final answer, but I assume we could do an Estonian company through a private round because we're actually not doing a public transaction there.
But then the documents of this transaction, can this be, basically the startup can put whatever in investment agreement documents, upload to the system, and it's completely like custom to this private syndicate, or it has to be done according to the standards that you have?
No, it can be completely customized. So one thing I actually didn't show you because it didn't ask me to do so in this investment process that I had, but we do electronic signatures of shareholders agreements, for example. So if I would go now and invest into this Fathas, which I showed you earlier, if I would click invest now and go through the investment process in a usual fashion, it would ask me at one point to actually sign the shareholders agreement, and then would have to read that through. But the shareholders agreement, or are there any other agreements that you might have in place, can be whatever you please. It doesn't need to be our documents.
And this includes also the investment agreement. I mean, the actual document with what I'm actually buying, so that all the clauses are there, are set by the startup and the, let's say, lead investor.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Certificate of the investment also.
Yeah, exactly. So the documents can be whatever you please. You don't need to use our documents. Of course, because we do work with a lot of startups, we provide them the documents so that they don't need to hire a law firm. But for you guys, you're free to use whichever documents you please.
How big is the investor compared to for instance, Vanderbeam? But how big is Invesdor?
Invesdor. So last year our revenue was about €1 million. This year we're probably going to make about 1.7 million revenue. We have about 61,000 registered investors. We've done 220 rounds. We've existed since 2012. We've raised about 63, 64 million, something like that, euros to date. Last year we raised about 19.1 million. This year we've raised, first 6 months we raised at least 20 million euros. I guess that's some of the numbers we have. We've done some 200 rounds in Finland, a bit less than 200, about 10 rounds in Sweden, few in Denmark, 7 or 8 in Norway, and about 10, 15 in the UK. And we've done 6 IPOs as well, 4 in the First North trading here 3 in First North here in Helsinki, 1 main list in Helsinki, and 2 in NGM in Stockholm.
Very good. Very impressive so far. Maybe at this point you could take, as mentioned in the beginning, we had the Nordic Angel program. So you had the experience from being partnering with FIBAN's Nordic Angel program, and which had an investment group of about 15 angels on board. Reima, if you could unmute yourself, is there something that you would like to highlight from that process and how you got the experience about using and managing this kind of larger amount of angels, and how does it work currently after the transaction?
Thanks, Klaus Mikko. Well, after the transaction, I think that what was set up for us was basically this one-time use only. So we don't have any of the follow-up services. So I cannot really comment on those. Regarding how it went from process point of view, I think it worked fine. Especially for those of our members who already had the Invesdor accounts, because it was pretty straightforward for them to add it to their current portfolios. One question that I would pose to the guys from the Invesdor is that this was actually asked me during the previous snap process, and I wasn't able to answer 100% correctly. Why did we use Invesdor? Why it was better to have this as a platform instead of just transferring the funds directly to the company? Of course, as a lawyer, I know some aspects, but what would you have given answer to a person asking that kind of question?
That is an excellent question, to be honest, and I'm going to be fully honest here. I was not a part of the NAP process, so I'm going to answer this as a best knowledge question. But basically, I guess the main thing is that it's probably easier for a lot of investors to actually see what they're signing up to if you're using a platform, because you have all the data in one place, and you can use your mobile bank IDs, etc., to actually move the money on an escrow account rather than straight away on the company's accounts. So then, if you in the NAP program, of course, you didn't know in the first one which the company actually is. So we needed to collect the money first in order to know how big the prize pool was. And then after that, we transferred the money to the company after they won. Was it Arctic 15 or? Yeah, I think it was Arctic 15. So after they won the competition. So otherwise, we wouldn't have known how big the prize pool is. Of course, you could have made a commitment to say that, okay, these 20 angels have committed to actually put money in the prize pool, but then you would have had to collect money afterwards, which is a process. So instead of having to collect money afterwards, you were calling it up front, basically, in the NAP program.
Yeah, that would be the ideal case. Actually, what happened was that we needed to collect the money afterwards anyway.
Oh, really?
We could see how many tickets have been subscribed, but we didn't know how many had actually paid.
Okay.
And I ended up sending over 40 reminders.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I mean, I think there's currently an NAP program running. I think everyone has actually paid for now. I think I haven't actually checked, but I think everyone has paid. It's not by invoice; they've paid by mobile banking. So one thing.
At least I haven't paid yet.
Okay. So one thing we can also do, by the way, if this is a problem in the future, we can just disable invoicing altogether as well.
Okay.
Also, one question. I also was part of the NAP process previous time, and we didn't use the signing capabilities of your platform. We actually used some other platform. Why was that?
To be honest, as I already said, I was not part of the NAP.
Because at that time it was said that it's not possible to do whatever documents there are, and it was a very specific use case, and then we had to actually use the way Invesdor set it up. So everything else we needed to actually outside. Also about the payment methods, for me from Estonia, I could only use the invoice option because there is no online banking services available. So for me, the experience was not that helpful because we still went to another platform to do the signing, and then I still need to go to the regular bank and just make the payment there. Maybe you have done some upgrades by now, so that's why I'm asking if maybe.
That is so. Rein, thank you very much for the comments. Well, what I'm going to do is, because I don't know what happened, so I'm going to take this up. So I'm going to write up that we need to figure out how we can actually send those documents on the platform. we use so there's a company called Helmet Capital here in Finland, which is a private equity company who uses our platform to syndicate their investors when they do a buyout. It's a private equity company, and you can actually sign on our platform all the carry agreements as well as the shareholders agreements that they have. So that's why I'm sort of confused why we wouldn't use our platform to sign this, to be honest. So I'm going to check that out. And then thank you for the input about Estonia and not being able to pay from Estonia. That is also very informational. Of course, in all honesty, we've focused in the Nordics very, very heavily. And because we don't accept companies from Estonia in general for our normal business, we haven't seen the need to enable Estonian payment providers as of yet. But of course, we will look into this. One thing we're currently discussing with some of our payment provider systems, if we could actually enable online payment systems in a very much broader geographical scope than we currently do. So hopefully we will be able to have Estonian mobile payments as well in the very near future.
But may I remind, in the beginning of the presentations, you said that, you're operating within the Nordic countries,
yes,
but you can accept payment from anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And that is for us here, we have in Norway now on the NAP1, we had investors from everywhere, from Africa and up to Norway.
Yeah, so we can accept payments from anywhere in the world. It's just that usually, so you can't just pay by mobile banking or online banking. You then have to pay by credit card or invoice, basically. You come from elsewhere than the Nordics currently.
Okay, back to the question, the Finn had regarding, expediting of payment. That is a big part of being a lead investor. I don't know how many mails and telephones, etc., I had to make, to ensure that all the payments were in.
Absolutely.
I saw that, on your platform, you will see that, they have signed up for a payment, but don't you see that they have made the payment, and automatically, if they don't by the time, if there is a deadline, do you issue, a reminder or
yes, absolutely. So again, I do not want to talk about NAP because that was something very special we did as a one-off, as already Reima said. In a very simplistic way, if we look at our regular rounds, it is fully automatic. So if you pay by invoice, we have an automatic screen against our escrow account that actually does the what is it called? It looks up all the investments from the escrow account automatically all the time. So it actually can check automatically if someone has paid the invoice or not. And if they don't pay the invoice within a certain date, it's usually 7 days payment, it starts sending out automatic reminders to pay that invoice. The way to actually remedy the fact that people don't pay is to completely turn off invoice payments. Just force them to use mobile banking, then they have to pay them instantly. That's one way as well.
One observation from the previous NAP that you probably can figure out how to work going forward, because I know that the same issue will come probably in every other NAP as well if they start using Invesdor. We had one Russian investor on board, and due to the local legislation, he needed to be able to show that the money he transferred to Invesdor was actually invested in the company. And the paperwork that we got from you basically only stated that the whole bonds, so all syndicate funding was transferred, but it didn't explicitly state that his stake was transferred. And he had quite a lot of work to be done with the local tax authorities. We finally figured that out. Basically, the company has issued statement confirming that, okay, he did the investment. But it's as Mund said, we can have investors all over the world, so it's not enough to comply with just the EU rules. We need to be able to support the investors outside the EU as well.
Yeah, I fully understand that, and to be honest, as a MiFID company, as an investment company, we of course facilitate the payments and the investments to the company, but because there's 228 countries in the world, we cannot be responsible for any local legislations that the investors have to comply by. So for example, if an American investor, if they have to go through a certain different process on our platform, it automatically redirects you to a different sort of process because you need to be an accredited investor. But then we do not take care of their tax filings, for example. They need to be responsible themselves to the authorities for any other stuff that they need to report to authorities. So I hopefully you understand this. Of course, we will give any of, confirmations about investments and money transfers that are needed for us to comply with, but we cannot take any risks regarding the investor's own responsibilities to comply with local legislation.
Of course, but what I was basically saying is that if you would have been able to issue a statement that these investors' 5,000 euros have been passed to that company, that would have been enough. But instead, we only were able to get a statement that this 115,000 has been transferred. So it wasn't specified that it was his investment. That was basically all that needs to be done. And on my experience, that tackles issues in not only Russia, but many other countries as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll take that up. I asked Villa to write that down. It's valuable feedback, and I hope that you've given this feedback to someone else as well during the NAP program, because we can also quickly respond to these if they come up to myself or someone else in the company.
Yeah. It's been discussed with Vera during the process. So.
All right, I'll take it up with Vera in that case.
Just a small commercial, what's the business model here? What's the cost of using your services or your platform? How do you actually finance your business?
So in a normal fashion, I'm not talking about the Angel Program Network currently. We have a success fee basis for our rounds that we mostly work with. There is a small upfront fee for the DD costs, but we work on a success fee basis. Now, when we talk about actually doing private runs, there are several different pricing options. It's usually fixed price just for using the platform, but we can also do on a percentage basis if that's something you'd rather do instead.
Okay, so that's a good possibility to take private contact with you guys later on. Maybe Annukka, as you part of the next batch as well, if I understood correctly, you're also using Invesdor for the next Nordic Angel Program. You got any questions, Annukka, for the team before we start wrapping up?
Do you hear me now?
Yep.
Good. Okay. I've been listening to this presentation and especially Reima's comments. At this point, I will not have any further questions. I will be looking forward to see that all our money is running through by the end of this month. So NAP Helsinki has not had the first due date yet, so that will be next Wednesday when everybody should have paid their first, where they should have paid their ticket, and then we'll see what the troubles are from there on. So it's going to be very, for me, this is the learning curve. Obviously, I will be talking with Reima quite a lot here during the day. And thank you, Eric and the Invesdor for this presentation. This makes it easier for me to understand also what your services are. Thank you very much.
Very good. So thank you, Annukka. And as this is a learning curve, as Annukka mentioned, it is more sure we're now in the first phase. We don't see that much of cross-border angel investing in average. So in that sense, this is a new element of using how to support the lead investors of just managing that information and the transactions, as we have some tricky experience so far doing that on classic mail and just email. So this is definitely the next phase. So just exchanging information. So thank you so much for the help as well. Any last questions, quick ones for Invesdor team? If not, thank you very much, Erik and Ville. If you got any final words you would like to close up with?
No, not really. One thing I do want to say is I really appreciate any feedback you guys had, and that one of the things that we are doing in terms of our strategy is we put the investor first. So this is something we did with the board in August. Is we are going to strive for a superb investor experience. That is our new slogan internally. So any feedback you have that can make the process better for the investors, let us know. and we'll do whatever we can in terms of within the regulatory framework, of course, that we can do. So anything, any feedback, any comments, anything like that, please, we are here to listen to you.
Very good. Okay, thank you. So this was one of the services described, and a lot of more coming up. So let's see how we can make these platforms serve the angels and feel the barrier a little less to start using those. Okay, so thank you very much. We'll end up the recording now, but we'll continue with next topics. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Bye.